Good evening, everyone. I am Sir Jomar Urbano from San Jose National High School and welcome to Tele-Turuan Season 10, Module 1 in Science. Let us start our lesson for tonight by stating the concept on horizontal uniform velocity motion and vertical uniform acceleration motion in one dimension, and that all projectiles, regardless of its path, will always follow these principles. Number 1. Projectiles always maintain a constant horizontal velocity, neglecting air resistance. Number 2. Projectiles always experience a constant acceleration along the axis and constant net force is directed to. There is a constant vertical acceleration of 9.8 meter per second square downward, neglecting air resistance for projectiles on air. Number 3. The horizontal and vertical motions are completely independent of each other. Therefore, the horizontal motion and vertical motion can be treated separately. What makes things move? Why do some objects move continuously while some moving objects stop suddenly? So let's have this question. Which of the two toy cars was more difficult to stop? The lighter one or the heavier one? The heavier one is more difficult to stop. This is because it possesses a greater inertia in motion, which depends on an object's mass and velocity. Do you still remember Newton's first law of motion? It is also known as the law of inertia. An object's momentum is also known as inertia in motion. For objects moving at the same velocity, a more massive object has a greater inertia in motion, therefore, a greater momentum. Momentum depends on two factors, mass and velocity. Two cars of the same mass but different velocities will also have different momenta. Consider two identical cars. Car A is traveling at 80 km per hour while car B is traveling at 30 km per hour. Which of the two cars would be more difficult to stop? Which of the two cars have more momentum? Car A, being faster, is more difficult to stop. It has more momentum. On what two factors does momentum depend on? It depends on mass and velocity. Operationally, momentum is defined as the product of mass and velocity of an object. So what happens when a train collides with a jeepney? When a train collides with a jeepney, the train exerts a much bigger impact force on the jeepney because of its enormous mass. Why are nets used to catch and save people jumping from burning tall buildings? Nets are used by firemen to catch and save people jumping from burning tall buildings to minimize impact forces because nets are flexible. So why do we bend our knees when jumping? We bend our knees when jumping to exert a greater force on the ground. The ground likewise exerts a greater force which accelerates us upward. Bending the knees and stretching them slowly prolong the time during which the impact force acts. This reduces the impact force which could otherwise damage our spinal column. So to define momentum, momentum is a measure of difficulty encountered in bringing an object to rest. It is defined as the product of its mass and its velocity. Let's pause for some reminders from our sponsors.